Hi, welcome back to the workshop for episode 39 of the Rickenbacker 620 12-string build. And in this episode we're going to complete the finishing process by laying some clear coats onto the guitar, and then we'll spend some time making sure that the fretwork is absolutely spot on. And here you can see I'm just laying down the first of several clear coats on top of this. In total I'll probably put between 6 and 10 clear coats on. And I'll start off with some fairly thick coats with the lacquer not thin that much, and you might be able to see this is going on quite thick, which leaves a little bit of texture in the lacquer. But as I progress through the coats I will thin the lacquer down more and more until you end up with quite a thin coat towards the end. And what you find with the nitro lacquer is that each subsequent coat kind of sinks in a little bit to the coats beneath it, so when you're putting that really thin coat on top, it will sink in, it will merge and it will blend, and hopefully we'll get a nice flat smooth surface that won't need too much polishing up. Okay, so it's been a couple of days now since I put that clear coat on, and it is kind of drying up quite nicely, but it's still quite soft and it's too soft to really do any polishing work. So I've got to do some other things before we can get around to that. And the biggest one of those is to get these frets sorted out. So we need to get them leveled, crowned, polished, etc. And then just do any little bits and pieces that we need to the fretboard to bring it up to standard. So that will be what we're concentrating on in this episode. Hopefully it won't be too much hard work, but you never know with these things. But the first stage in all of this is we need to check that the neck's good and straight before we do anything. So we will get the notch straight edge on, and I'm just going to go down and check. I've got 10th thou feeler gauge. And theoretically, if it's straight, we shouldn't be able to get that underneath anywhere. And to be honest, I think that neck is pretty much straight as we need it. So next up, we'll just get some masking tape out and we'll get this taped up. Now, I'm not going to do that thing where you run a big length of masking tape down both sides and then tape onto that, because this lacquer is still quite soft. So I'm just going to tape up going across ways and just take it a little bit over the edge of the fretboard, because the last thing I want to do is kind of put a load of tape on here, and then when it comes to pull it off in a couple of hours time, we just take a load of that soft lacquer off and we're back to square one. So we're not going to do that. Okay, so with that all nicely masked up, it's just a case of getting a nice magic marker and putting a coat of black over the top of them. Now I'm hoping, as this neck was quite nice and straight, that we're not actually going to have to take too much off these. because it means less reprofiling and crowning work. Now normally I'd be breaking out my sanding beam to do this with, however I've got a new purchase from Crimson and it's one of their little fret levelling files, so quite keen to see how this works. And I think it's just literally a case of running it up and down and that actually worked really nicely. It has taken those down very quickly and very efficiently, so yeah, I like that. It has left some little marks in though, so I'm just going to go over with the beam with, I think this is 320 grit. Just to finesse that up a little bit. And that's worked very nicely. So yeah, so far so good. So next stage, again, we need to take the black pen and get some more ink on there. And then we need to take our triangular fret crowning file and just work these frets where we've taken the crown off and kind of left a flat spot on. We just need to work our way and just bring those shoulders back over until we've got a crown on, and you'll know when you're there because you'll just have a quite thin line of black through the middle, like on this one. So we'll bring you in closer and then we'll just work our way down the fretboard and get all of those sorted out. Okay, so that's all the re-crowning done, and I've also just given them a bit of a tickle down with some 600 wet and dry just to take that black off the top and also just give them a little bit of a clean up. So next up we need to take our fret rocker and just work our way down the fretboard, testing several points across the radius of the frets just to see if we can find any inconsistency. If you do find some dodgy spots, it's usually just a quick bit of spot leveling can take care of that. So with that done, next bit is we need to address just the ends of the frets, and that is a job for our little fret end dressing file, and it's just a case of kind of working these down and taking any sharp edges off them. but it is quite a long job, so I'll just crack on with this and I'll join you back when it's all done. Okay, so with all those fret ends rounded off nicely now, and they are really quite smooth as a touch, we can begin the polishing process. And to start with, I'm going to use some of these fret erasers, and I've got 4 grades of them. I've got coarse, medium, fine and super fine. So we'll go over all of the frets with all 4 grades of these, and it's just a case of giving it a rub and getting rid of any kind of fine sanding marks or anything that might be left on there. Just go to the next grade. And finally the super fine. And you can tell when they're nice because you can run a fingernail over them and you don't feel anything snagging. Now that is the one I've done, and you might be able to, there's not a lot of noise coming there, and I definitely can't feel anything on my thumbnail. That's the one I haven't done, and you can hear the difference, and I can definitely feel that that's a little bit rougher. So I'll work my way right the way along the fretboard now with those, get everything cleaned up, and we can move on to the final polishing stage. Now theoretically I could leave these at that and they would be good enough, but I like to just take it one little step further and take my Dremel and some polishing compound. And just give that fret that little bit an extra polish, which just brings it up absolutely beautiful. So I'll just work my way down the board, get the rest of them polished off, we can get this tape off and we'll see how we've done. And there's the frets all polished off, looking very, very nice against that nice glossy fretboard as well. So I think that's another job really well done there. And that brings us another step closer to completion on this thing. Now, I'm not sure if this lacquer is going to be ready for the next episode to get a polish on it. It still might be a little bit too soft. I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. It is quite warm at the moment, so it is drying quite nicely, but it's nowhere near the kind of the 4 weeks I would like to give it. We don't have the luxury of that time, unfortunately. If I look at it in a few days' time and I think it's not really ready, we can look at getting the nut made for this. And we've also got a little bit of work to do with the pickups and a few other little bits of sorting out jobs to do. So still plenty to go out, but all of that is going to be for the next episode. So until then, like if you've liked, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.